Hey everyone, today I'm doing a video on the top 10 mistakes that sellers make when you sell for sale by owner. There are many mistakes as a seller that you can make when selling your house for sale by owner when you don't know what you're doing. The number one mistake is that sellers accept offers from buyers based on the price and don't pay attention to the other contract terms. A lot of times it's because they're doing it verbal. Hey, what are you going to offer me? Okay, great. No one thinks about title work and taxes and, hey, who's going to pay that closing fee? Who's going to pay for the owner's policy versus the lender's policy? How are those taxes going to be handled? There's so many, like our purchase agreements are 8 pages and it's nothing but legal verbiage to protect everyone. So if you can imagine a contract or no contract really, or if you get a contract off Google, it might be 1 page long. Is it going to protect everyone? Is it going to spell everything out? I've talked to a lot of title companies and lenders who have told me they've seen these purchase agreements come across from or sell by owner, and it's like it's missing a lot, the number one mistake as a seller that you can make is accepting the wrong offer. I think another big mistake that goes with that is number two, not handling properly multiple offer situations. Say you've got this guy, you showed your house 12 times today and you've gotten 5 offers. I would say not all, of course, but I would say the majority of sellers don't usually pick the right offer because, again, in our line of work, we receive a purchase agreement, which is 8 pages long, 7 pages of legal verbiage specifying exactly how everything's going to be handled. And so even though Joe may have given you an offer of $180,000 and Rita's only given you an offer of $175,000, there could be drastic differences that would totally change the outcome. What if Rita is a cash buyer and she's going to pay all the title work and she's going to take over taxes immediately versus this $180,000 buyer says, I want you to pay my closing costs. I want you to provide a home warranty. Well, by the time it's said and done, you're actually netting less than you would have with this other person's offer. So that's one of the biggest mistakes. And I've talked to numerous sellers over the years who, and this is absolutely no offense to anyone, this is just truly me trying to help. They just verbally talk about it. Oh yeah, we shook on it. Well, what about all these other terms that you haven't even talked about? Or you might verbally say, yeah, I'll take this. Then you get to the day before closing and you see your settlement statement and you're like, well, that's it? That's all I'm getting? Well, that's why you should use a professional. A realtor is going to provide you, or they should be providing you with a seller's net sheet. So with every single offer, it should be very detailed down to the penny of exactly where the money's going and what you're going to walk away with. It's going to be approximate because everything can change. But that's just another added benefit and another possible mistake you could do to yourself by not knowing. So number one, accepting the highest offer without paying any attention to any of the other terms. That's a big mistake. Could cost you thousands of dollars. Number two, not properly handling multiple offer situations with multiple buyers. Number three, not properly handling backup offers. I've seen it both ways. I've actually called some sellers who say, hey, I've got an accepted offer. If it doesn't close by 3 weeks from now, just call me back. And I've seen others where you call them, it's sold. It's like the day after the accepted offer, it's sold. Well, I don't know about you, but in my real estate world, nothing is official until you leave that closing table. So I would say, no, it's not sold, but we would be happy for you to see it for a backup offer opportunity. Now, if you have a really strong cash buyer, waived inspections, by all means, it's sold, But if you have a buyer who's obtaining financing, going through inspections, and there's still the appraisal, I would say, a lot of sellers just, they're pretty strongly one way or the other. They don't even try for backup offers, or maybe they do and they handle it wrong as well. So number 4, and this one I don't know if I totally believe, but entering into an agreement with no earnest money deposit from the buyer or a very small earnest money. I'm one of those indifferent oddballs about earnest money. I don't necessarily love earnest money. I've seen it get refunded to the wrong person so many times over the years where I had no control over it. And so I think it's just a wasted piece of paper. I'm sorry. That's just the way I feel. Like, I have had it to where buyers and sellers have disputed their earnest money and hired attorneys, and it ended up going to the person that I didn't think it should have went to. So, it's really, it is what it is. But earnest money also, I've actually seen this happen firsthand. For sale by owner, when you take earnest money from a buyer, and I've seen them spend it, and then you get to closing, and that closing title agency had given credit to the buyer for their earnest money back, and the seller had already spent it, so they had to take it from their proceeds. But it's just little things like that. How is that? That all should be spelled out in your contract, how it's going to be handled. But so number 5, entering into an agreement before verifying the buyer's financial ability to close. To me, this is a big deal because I feel like for sale by owner sellers show their homes more often than realtors do to buyers who are not pre-approved. I also feel like they go off of a verbal, yeah, I'm pre-approved, versus actually asking for proof. And even proof sometimes isn't good enough. I mean that in like, we had a pre-approval last week that we received that was dated 1 year ago. Well, obviously, a lot can change in a year, especially someone's credit situation. And I think most pre-approvals are generally only good for like 90 days and sometimes less. So not always, but sometimes I'll go a step above and I'll call that buyer's loan officer and I'll just say, hey, obviously there's privacy things that, they can't say, but hey, is this buyer good? Because I've seen pre-approval letters that were outdated or canceled, or you never know. And so I would definitely want to make sure you verify the buyer's ability to buy that home. I have even had people lie to me about having all cash. They say, I have all cash, and I could just say, okay, let's go look at it. But I say, I need to see proof. And guess what? They never provide proof. We just this summer had a guy lie, wanting to look at houses and had no money. And said he did, but never could provide us the proof of that. Let's see, number 6, not disclosing known material facts affecting the value or the desirability of the property. So if you're a for sale by owner and you're a seller, you may not know the laws regarding disclosure of what you are supposed to disclose, or I have seen this happen many times this year. Sellers will say, hey, I'm going to sell for sale by owner because I don't have to tell anybody. And so that is like scary. But I've seen it firsthand. Or maybe we had 2 this year where the seller wasn't even legally able to sell the property. And so, hey, if I don't go with a realtor and I for sale by owner, I guess I can fly under the radar, or so they think. And no one will ever find out. Well, yeah, they will, because that buyer is still going to have a title, more than likely have a title search done and find out those things. And again, there's just different facts that you need to disclose. Like, they might be hiding that there's mold in the crawl space. They might be hiding they had a roof leak, or maybe they have an electrical problem. Hey, this outlet's not working, or hey, the toilet doesn't flush right, or the stove isn't working, or the microwave. I mean, it could be minor things. So that is a big mistake that sellers make when selling for sale by owner. So number 7 is not providing the buyer with legally required disclosures. Indiana requires sellers' disclosures. There are only a few instances where they are not applicable, but that's like an estate or a foreclosure or new construction. So if you are selling an existing home that's not in an estate situation, you need to have a seller's disclosure filled out. You can go online and Google it, Indiana seller's disclosure form, and it's online everywhere. Definitely you need to fill those out. They need to be signed at the time of the offer. They have to be signed, again, at closing to verify nothing major has changed. And if it has, it needs to be noted. Because if someone is going to sue you after closing based on a condition of some item and they're trying to prove, that you knew about it and didn't tell them, they're going to go right back to that seller's disclosure and they're going to see how you answered that question there to decide from there. So, number 8, not obtaining the buyer's written acknowledgement of disclosure. So yeah, you might show it to them, but you don't get it signed by them. So yes, definitely make sure you get it signed by them. Number 9 is not considering whether to require the buyer to remove contingencies. I've seen this happen, and I've seen people end up in nightmares. So a contingency is, meaning that the sale of this is contingent upon something else, whether it's contingent upon financing, inspections, the sale of another home. What I've seen happen that ends badly is when you're selling your home and you're buying a for sale by owner. This is just hypothetical example, but let's say you're selling your home, you're going to buy a for sale by owner, and you go to that seller of the for sale by owner and you're like, hey, I'm selling my home right now, but I want to buy yours. And that seller doesn't even ask you any questions. There's a lot of really important questions to be asked in that situation. Where are you at in selling your home? Do you have a buyer that's getting financing? Have they done their inspections? Has it been appraised? Where are you at in that process? How many days are you away? So there is a lot of mistakes made, by sellers when selling for sale by owner, because they just say, oh, okay, you're going to sell your house. Okay, no big deal. And there's just so many little details that are very, very important in that situation that you need to know. So, number 10, not excluding items from the sale that the seller wants to keep. This is a big one. I have seen this go sour. So, let's say you close on the home and you wanted to... Your grandma's wishing well is in the front yard, and you wanted to take it, and you wanted to take those hostas too, and there was a light fixture that was from your Uncle Fred in the bedroom, and you really want to take all those. Well, as a for sale by owner, a huge mistake that you could make is not putting that in writing. Because what happens is the buyer comes in, where did all that go? I bought that with this, where is it at? So that's a big mistake. And even as a buyer, when you're buying for sale by owner, you should really make sure you put everything in writing, because the way our purchase agreements read is anything permanently physically attached is going to stay unless specified otherwise. So things need to be spelled out in every agreement that you make, whether you're buying or selling. I lost my train of thought on where I was going with that one. I've seen people take like the mirrors in the bathrooms above the vanities. I've seen them take ceiling fans. We had one situation where somebody took appliances that were supposed to be left, and we always revert back to that purchase agreement because we want to protect everyone as much as possible. So that is a big thing to consider when buying or selling. So not that I wanted to be negative about selling your home by owner. That was not my intent of this video. My intent was to help someone who is buying or selling for sale by owner. More specifically, if you are a seller and you're wanting to sell on your own. I always recommend a professional. Obviously, even if it's not me, if it's someone else you know and trust, I would highly recommend using a professional. There was an ad the other day that I saw that was saying, in reference to selling your house by owner and hiring an attorney. It doesn't matter who you hire as long as they know what they're doing. Hiring an attorney, and attorneys may only charge you a few $100s. It may be very inexpensive for you to hire an attorney to represent you and write that purchase agreement for you, because they're going to keep your best interest at hand. And majority of them know, because they've been through it all. So, yes, so that was the top 10 mistakes that sellers of for sale by owners make. So tune in for our next video. Thanks for watching.